Hello, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. You are watching the second episode of the Interview with Alumni series by JSC Department of Materials Engineering, the University of British Columbia. Today we have with us Dr. Azadeh Goudarzi. Without any further ado, I'm just going to jump right into our questions. How are you today, Azadeh?
Pleasure being here. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you so much for your time. So, could you please give us a brief biography of yourself? Your name, like the year that you graduated, and your supervisor, and your current occupation and position. Thank you.
Sure. My name is Azadeh Goudarzi. You can call me Ozzy. Currently, I'm a business consultant. I'm running my own business named Pomegranation Solution. I did my PhD from 2008 to 2013 in UBC under Dr. Tom Trzynski in UB Serum Lab. And I've been working in academia a couple of years after graduation. And then I decided that I really want to join the industry where I could be seeing tangible results of the research being translated into solutions to improve people's lives and in hands of people. For us in biotech, that would mean like improving quality of life of patients, which was very fulfilling. I'll get to more detail about that. I know the questions are coming, so I think that's good for now as an intro.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, because the questions are split in different sections. So let's just start by the questions regarding your degree and your time here as a PhD student. What were some of the biggest obstacles that you faced during your research, and how did you overcome them?
I don't want to get into specific details because research to research is different. But as a general rule, I would say the biggest obstacle is in your mind, the mindset. It's very, very hard to bang on a wall like many, many times and then nothing is happening. That's the nature of research. As a PhD student and as a PhD, the you want to move the edge of the knowledge, which means you are exploring unexplored territories of science. Obviously, you will fail many, many, many times. So, understanding this upfront and not taking things like not looking at yourself like, oh, I'm so bad at this, I cannot do this. Understanding this is the nature of science and research at this level. So, I would say mental resilience would be the most important thing for you to grasp.
Hmm. That sounds like a very great attitude towards the research in grad studies. And I realized that you were part of JSC, the team that I'm working on in currently, and you had some other extracurricular activities. Would you please tell us more about the other activities beyond research and being a grad student?
Yeah, I would love to. Very, very happy moments of my life. So that's another thing. You can create, like, you can build up your network. I was not, English is not my first language. So as someone who is practicing your English, it's also a good opportunity to get involved in extracurriculum activities, as well as your mental health. Like you need some place to interact with other students who are not in your lab and to get to know the life on campus. And so that was a very, very good decision I made that I'm so happy about it. I was involved not just in JSC, but also I was the representative of the department in the Graduate Student Society. So just going there and interacting with not just people in your department, but from all departments, knowing from the science and arts and everything. So that was another good opportunity for me. I was the one who created the first student chapter of Canadian Biomaterials Society. Of course, I didn't do it alone. We were a team. So, but UBC was the first university in Canadian Biomaterials Society to create a student chapter. So we had the inaugural chapter. We even write the bylaws and everything ourselves. So that was a very good experience too. And internationally, we connected to other chapters from Society for Biomaterials in US. So that was a lot of learning and fun for me. I would say not just because of the career, just because of your mental health and happiness, be involved in extracurricular activities.
Following up with my previous question, so can you name some particular situations in your career that you got help from your experience in being active in extracurricular activities? How being active in extracurricular activities in your student life helped you in your career? If I wanna ask it better.
Yeah, definitely. For example, for the Canadian Biomaterials Society, I organized there was a conference in Vancouver, so we were the organizing committee and I organized some social events. Later on in another conference, I met a prof that I didn't remember all the 200 people in that event, but they remembered me because I was the one like guiding them and everything. So that was a good introduction and icebreaker. The second one is increasing just your confidence in talking to people. Talking to people you don't know is scary for most of the people. Like cold calling people, if later on you're in business development or sales, you will need a lot of like experience just interacting with people. And this is a very safe environment for you to practice those skills.
Exactly. Yeah, and I'm looking forward that all the in-person events come back after all this COVID situation. Azadeh, what would you have done differently during your time in grad school? It could be in research, it could be in like personal life as a grad student. What do you think you've done differently in all aspects of your life?
Okay, this is a question that I have publicly answered multiple times. There are record of me saying that, so I will repeat that again. I don't think there's anything that anyone could have done differently because what you are right now is the result of all the things that happened to you or all the decisions you made, correct or incorrect. Like if you made a mistake, you learn from it. So even like what if I say something that I would have done differently, that would not be me, the person who is there, because there's like a researcher, they are psychologists who got a Nobel Prize in economics, and they have shown like people's mind are making like biases over and over again and again, and that has been calculated. The name of their book is Thinking Fast and Slow. I highly recommend reading that book. And one of the hindsight biases is all people think, oh, I should have done this differently then. But if you would have done that differently, you wouldn't be the person you are today to make the decision to go back and do that differently. Just have confidence in yourself, think hard, do your calculations, make your decisions. But at the end of the day, know that there are a lot that you cannot predict. Like who could have ever thought about something like pandemic happening like 3-4 years ago, that the whole world would go upside down? There are so many things out of your control. Just look at the parts that you have control and understanding over and make the best decision in that situation that you can. And at the end of the day, be compassionate about yourself, have self-compassion. And if you have made a mistake, just don't beat yourself so hard, and understand, okay, this part I could have seen and I didn't. So next time I'll do better. This part I couldn't have seen. So there's nothing I could have done differently.
Exactly. Yeah. I think with this question you answered the other question as well, which is what giving advice. But yeah,
Oh,
thanks.
I
Thanks
have
for,
another advice at the
yeah,
end. So I
sure.
have like three different ones that I
Great.
want to go
Yeah,
into.
sure. Yeah, that's gonna be the final question of this section. Before I get into that question, I want to ask you another important question. How did you manage stress and anxiety in grad school?
So I am usually very active physically. So doing runs and like doing exercise was helpful to me. One of the things that I didn't know by that time, I learned later on, was doing mindfulness meditation. So this is something that I've been doing after I graduate, but it's been helpful. And I am a big advocate of mindfulness, especially for entrepreneurs, because they are dealing with a bigger share of stress and anxiety and uncertainty than other people.
That's true. That's true. Okay. Just one more question here. You have also been a finalist of the 3-minute thesis competition. So, would you please tell us more about that experience and what was your motivation to participate in that competition?
Sure, that was a lot of fun. I'm so happy I did that, and I had a lot of doubt. I was so scared, like out of my mind of thinking, oh my God, I'm gonna go talk in front of all those people and be judged for it. So it was like a courageous decision to make, and my friends helped me. So I was like, I remember even like before the very first one, and it has not done before. So that year was the first year that it was being run. I was like this close of like taking myself out of the competition because I was chickening out. And then my friends were nice and encouraged me. My boyfriend at the time, who's my husband right now, was very helpful. Um, but I'm so glad I did it. It was an excellent experience. So I highly recommend any one of you, if you can, participate in that. If that is not open or you're not being selected to go forward, just record yourself and see yourself in video while you're presenting. And the biggest skill I learned through that was simplifying your science so that a layperson could understand. You will need that over and over during all your life. Whether you are in academic or you are in industry, you always need to be able to simplify your complex knowledge in science and what you've done in your research in a package that is easily digested by a person who's not an expert in that field.
Exactly. To add on that, someone once told me that you cannot be sure that you understand your research until you can explain it to someone who doesn't have any idea about that. And after that, like that person understand it fully. So that's a way to make sure that you understand what you are working on correctly. Okay.
And I just want to add to that. So especially if you are going toward the entrepreneurship route, like in the competitions, anywhere you want to participate, usually they are saying you have to be able to say what is it that your company is doing, what is your product, in a way that a third grader can understand it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. Great. Okay, just as the final question of this section, the 3 advices that you just mentioned that you said for this question. So would you please give fresh graduate students, current graduate students, some piece of advice?
Definitely. So first of all, build up resilience. Resilience is both taking care of your body and your mind. So do exercises, be healthy, eat healthy, and do not do very long hours in the lab. Once in a while, that would happen. Like we have deadlines and everything, but don't make that like a regular thing. You have to be able to think about PhD as a marathon. It's not a sprint. So do not like burn yourself out in the beginning, and then you would be not able to sustain that energy and moving forward. Do your best. I'm not saying like be lazy and slack off, but just do your best, but be careful about your mental health and your physical health too. And then second one is learn and improve your communications more and more and more. Build up your network, contact people, participate in different events around the world, like do whatever you want to do. Your network is your net worth. And at the end, I'm not sure if this is feasible for everyone. That wasn't feasible to me. But if it's feasible, definitely do an internship. Even if like you're sure that you want to stay in academia, that insights from the industry would be so useful for you.
Okay, yeah, sounds like some great piece of advice, and thank you for that. Okay, now we're done with the questions relating to your degree. Now we are starting the question related to the career search. First of all, how hard was it for you to find your first job after graduation? Can you go into details regarding your career search in that time after graduation?
Sure. So I would consider my first job out of the academia. So that was a lot harder because immediately after my PhD, I worked at UBC as a scientist. I don't remember the exact title, but I was working at UBC and I was teaching at UBC. So that was like not that hard because you already know the people and environment and everything. But out of the academia into industry, I would say the first job is gonna be the hardest one because there are so many things that you don't know. What you can do to improve that is do not wait like until you submit your PhD to the library, like very, very end to start the process. Do it like a year in advance. Think about like what you want because there are multiple paths in front of you and map it out. Like where do you want to stay? Are you open to relocate to US, go other parts of Canada, or are you looking for Vancouver specific jobs? And then map out all the companies that are your target and then go see like if they have an openings and then look at all the job descriptions and the requirement they're looking for and see if there's something that you can improve in the 1 year ahead of you, if there's a certification that is required, or if um, there is some part of your resume that if you work a little bit more on it, it can be related to that. And never ever just limit yourself to applying for jobs that are like you're 100% qualified. If you are 70, 80% qualified for that, definitely apply for the job. And if you know the companies that you are going to work with, you have the target, like this is my top 5 or top 10 companies that I want to work with, and you want to do that like a year in advance, go find people within that company, add them on LinkedIn, message them, try to get informational interviews with them, ask about what are the goals here, what are the values in this company, how can I get like a footing here, if you can get an internship, if not, can you work like a small project and then present it to them like, oh, this is the case study I did on your product, see how it works. So be creative and always think outside the box, but do it in advance. So this is for people who still have time. But if you have not done it before, don't like panic. Still like you have today to start. So start today, like small steps, create a step-by-step program and strategize for yourself. Sometimes the job you want, you could not get today, but like what would be the job before that? Go on the LinkedIn and find people with in that position and see what are the past. So they did like another job in somewhere else. What was the job title? What was like the qualification they had? So build up like a map, like similar to what we are doing for like if you're running a business, you have a product roadmap, you can have a career roadmap for yourself.
Yeah, thanks for the great and very well detailed answer to that question. Okay, so let's get into some other questions that were asked by students. Are there any advantages that master's or PhD has over an undergraduate when applying for the same positions as them?
You have to be able to understand your own strength and at the same time your own weaknesses. So the strengths of someone who has gone through graduate studies, especially something like PhD, is resilience because you know like something wouldn't work many, many times and you come back and then find another way, different approach, pivot, like all those stuff. So that mindset of critical thinking and being able to solve problems, that would be your asset. But you have to know like what is your strengths and like polish it better and better every day. There are definitely companies that they do not value those skills because, for example, there's a startup, they have very limited budget. So their goal would be like to hire someone with minimum salary to do like a minimum um, brain needed work. They need someone to do something repetitive work, and they
Mhm.
are like having an opening for a technician and they know exactly like they don't want this person to be very critical thinker. So in that situation, if like two people apply, with one with a higher degree with one lower degree, they probably hire the lower degree one because they would know that person would stay in that position. But someone with that good mindset would not stay in this position for long, and they probably soon have to advertise the job again.
Right, right. So, like another version of that question is that do you think pursuing a PhD degree disqualifies you from getting into industry in general?
Not in general, no. I think I already answered that. So it depends on the role.
Under,
If the skills you are bringing to the table are valuable for that position, you have a better chance. If it's not, then no.
mhm, right. Okay, final question of this section. What are some hard skills, such as computer languages, programs, or certifications that you suggest grad students learn to help them secure employment after graduation?
So goes back to that career roadmap. You have to know where you want to go, and in order to get there, what tools you would need to put in your pocket, as if like you are going for a expedition. So if I'm going to a place that I have to pass a river, I need to have like a canoe with me.
That's right. Okay, so I think that's going to be the interesting part of our talk today. Questions about your current position and your
Mhm.
entrepreneurship experience. So, how does your PhD research topic translate over to your current position?
My position is specifically in working with scientist entrepreneurs, mainly in biotech, either by medical devices, digital health, or pharmaceuticals. So, in a biotech business, absolutely you cannot do the business side without understanding the science. Like, absolutely. There's so many people with like PhD MBAs that you would find in biotech groups, although this is not translatable to all the other disciplines. So I'm just giving the disclaimer. Most of my experiences in biotech, so I'm giving that part. If you do not understand the nitty gritty aspect of the technical and the science underlying the, for example, if you're developing a drug, like a drug delivery system, you have to know everything from like not just the research and development in the lab is a very small portion of it. Like you have to understand the whole category of everything from how to scale up and like pilot and GMP manufacturing. And then during all this time, you have to think about the intellectual property, understanding the IP. What are the differences between patent and trade secret? How you should combine them together to create an IP strategy. And then moving on to the GMP, and then writing all the stuff for example, FDA approval. What are the steps? Like there are three different major steps, and like what are the differences in terms of cost and revenue structure? How to analyze and understand what would be the patient population you go after first. So there are you all so many moving targets and understanding. So I would say in a biotech business, you would definitely need that deep understanding. And my PhD has been absolutely helpful to me.
Absolutely, yeah, that's true. And
Oh, one thing that could be generalized though is as a PhD, you'll have one superpower, and that's like learning. You are a professional learner. So, me working with my clients in the last more than 2 years, I have worked with like not just drug delivery, but medical devices, even cosmetics, some fintech group, like many different aspects. My ability was like after the first meeting with my clients, I can just like this jump in and learn something new from scratch. So that would be your superpower.
yeah, that's true. I think we didn't have like enough time at the beginning of the interview to talk about that, but would you please explain more of what your company, your own business is about, and what are you doing in your company?
Sure. So I worked as a scientist in a pharma company for 4 years,
Mhm.
and then I became the innovation manager. So I have that very deep understanding of the biotech side. So I'm wearing a dual lens, but then I have equipped myself with the MBA. So understanding everything about the business marketing and like anything that goes to customer behavior, business models, value proposition. In order to be able to successful, you need to amalgamate these two to create something really valuable. And my clients ranging from very small startups, one or two were just even pre-incorporation, to some medium-sized startup. Some of them having an ideation, they want to bring it to the first step. And some of them, they already have a platform technology. They have like tens of employees, but they need to decide on their product roadmap and decision of like, if I have a pipeline, which one would be the first to pursue, which one has the highest probability of success. So I worked in this area. As I said, it's very, very important and essential to understanding all those little nitty gritty stuff about not just the R&D, but the IP, but the GMP scale up, manufacturing scale up, and how to navigate regulatory bodies approval.
That's true. And another question that I believe you have experience in like both streams. What are some of the differences between working in academia and compared to industry? Since you have like experience in both.
Sure. So in academia, you have some more rightfully, like, this is supposed to be like that. If it's not, then you cannot work as an academic. You need some more freedom. You have less pressing time. So I would say the pace is so different in academia and industry. And I think the pace was the most important one that I noticed, the difference. But in terms of the result, in academia, you want to publish something, but you don't have the obligation to see through to commercialization. But in industry, especially when we're talking industry, I'm talking about private small companies, like your essence is dependent on the result of commercialization of that product. So if it's not going into the market, you are done. And that's make it or break it. So the survival is different.
Exactly. When did you decide you wanted to pursue your own business and run your own company?
I always knew, and that was one of the reasons I actually did my MBA. And I have had experience before coming here. Back in Iran, I had my own business with my brother, and we actually grew the business. We had, by the time I left, I was the CEO of a company. I had like more than 10 employees. And I had that experience. So I know that I like that. But at the same time, one message that I have for people, don't be naive. Running your own business doesn't mean that like you have less number of bosses. Actually, you have more. Like when you work in company, you have one manager and you have to deal with that person. When you're running your own business, all your clients and everything that goes around you, even like your accountant, like you have to answer to so many more people rather than to less number of people.
Yeah, absolutely. That's true. Great. Okay, some more general and interesting questions. What fields do you think hold a bright future for materials engineering?
I really love materials engineering because it's basis of everything. Even if when you think about like COVID vaccine, how it works, and like if you think about the gene therapy, all of the components that are creating those solutions are materials. Like you think about like the kind of binding they have, like what kind of material, they're peptides, and like they are basically some form of polymers, how they have interacting with each other. So material science is everywhere, but you have to find the trend, and within like the discipline you are, like there are so many disciplines under material science. Some people are working in welding, corrosion, and some people are working in biomaterials. So depending on like which discipline you are, so everything can be related to material science, but at the same time, you have to build up a case to say like what you know that other disciplines wouldn't know, and find out that strengths that you have and just build it up. I would say something like big data, and for example, in biotech, people are now working on discovering antibodies, and in order to, instead of running so many tens of and millions of experiments, they actually do it on a computer. So learning digital skills would definitely be something that I recommend to every single person, not just in material science, but in any higher degree education.
Right. Yeah, great. And where is your favorite place on UBC campus and in Frankfurt Building, Department of Materials Engineering?
That's a good question. Um, in campus, I think I love that grass field in front of the Tim Hortons by
Oh,
the forestry. Yeah, so
yeah,
I had so many like lunch breaks at that place and like chatting with friends.
right.
In Frankfurt, I think where you're sitting right now, like that new lunch break. So we didn't have that one from the beginning when I
Oh,
joined, but like I just love those trees at the back and we
yeah,
had some
yeah.
fun sitting around and
I'm,
talking to each
I'm
other.
sitting in the conference room right beside the lunch rooms.
Yeah.
Okay, and the last question. If you have any final word, any advice, any recommendation to grad students, masters, PhDs, and students who are fresh, who are like the current graduate students, what would
Mhm.
it be?
So as I said, as PhD people, your most valuable asset is your mind. Take care of your mind and sharpen it. Do not just think about the discipline and the research you're doing on your PhD project, but think about like what else you can learn. And do not underestimate the value of like long-term persistence. For example, if you're the first year PhD student, you start doing something 10 minutes per day and do not do it every single day. Let's say 300 days out of 365 days a year, right? So that would be 3,000 minutes a year. And you compound that like over 4 years, it will make you an expert, like an absolute expert in something if you start it today, just that 10 minutes per day. So do not underestimate the level of self-learning you can do. You can become an expert in something within the end of your PhD.
That's true. Yeah, thanks for this great advice. Okay, so on behalf of JSC, I would like to thank you, Azadeh, for your time and for this great talk. And I'm sure many grad students will like this interview.
Yeah, great. My pleasure. It was very refreshing talking back to all these nostalgic topics and lovely meeting you.
Thank you so much.